Bank of Canada has just started injected like $30 or $40 billion of liquidity, short-term liquidity into the market. Something's messed up. That's what it is. And it hasn't been announced yet, but it's going to come soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
So something's failing, like a bank is going to fail or something's going to fail.
Look, I get it. The Toronto real estate market is confusing. Whether you're a new or experienced investor or just looking for a home to raise your family in, join us at Broadview Table Talks as we sit around the table with my friends and talk about the real estate and the ever-changing market in Toronto.
All right, guys, Happy New Year. Welcome to 2024. Broadview Avenue Group brings you the Broadview Table Talks. So, yeah, how do we leave off last year? How'd it go?
So, you know what? We have this never-ending topic of affordability in Toronto, what affordability is to people, how we can solve affordability, or just that topic in general. We've kind of talked about everything with that.
You know what's funny? Because somebody was actually telling me the other day that immigrants are leaving Canada, blah, blah, blah. You see that in the articles and stuff,
I see that everywhere now.
But somebody said that, you know what? Like, Canada actually is a great place to live if we solve the housing affordability crisis. If our housing was actually affordable. What's that?
Who can afford a house?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If we didn't have this whole issue in the past 8 years or whatever it was, that it doubled, everything doubled, right? If you look at the rule of 7 in investments, everything doubles anyway in 7 years. Yeah. But so it's kind of not abnormal, but like assuming our housing was actually affordable, we'd have more money to spend on things and the economy would be booming. Everything would be just more fun. Life wouldn't be so expensive here.
Right. Yeah.
People wouldn't hate it. And yes, you could say you can go to like other cities like Calgary or Halifax or whatever, but like, the quality of life isn't as good as in living in Toronto.
Yeah, it's definitely a different way of life. It's a little bit more laid back. It's a little bit quieter. You don't have the things that you would expect from a world-class city like Toronto.
Yeah, so if we could only solve the housing crisis, that would be amazing.
So, like, on that note, there's an article that I ran into today, and it was talking about a couple. So, speaking on this basis of affordability, there's a couple, and they just got a child. They are renting a place or a condo in downtown Toronto, but this person or the husband has lived in the beaches all his life. He loves Toronto, wants to stay in Toronto, and specifically wants to live in the beaches, but it's too expensive to actually buy a house there, right? Resale.
Parents
right?
give him money or what?
So it's actually pretty unique because the parents didn't just give them money to buy a house. Like they have they have good careers. They make good enough money, but they just don't have the years of savings in order to buy a house. So what they did was they're really close with their parents, or the husband is, and they asked the parents if they could build a Laneway house that they can live in. So what they did was they built a fairly big Laneway house. So just imagine the lot size is probably huge because the house they built was 1,350 square feet. Oh, wow. 2 stories, 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom. Pretty good for 2 people and a baby, right? It's a pretty good start. So it's a unique way to tackle this situation of just the lack of housing or affordable housing, to be specific. And it says in the article here that they were able to afford this after building costs, after like all the increases in construction and lawyers and everything, $650K.
Everything?
Which is not bad. Yeah, everything.
Oh, wow.
So one thing I just wanted to bring up to you guys was, obviously there are pros and cons for this type of living, as well as I wanted to know personally if you would do this yourself.
Yo, ask your parents.
Yeah, I know.
Seriously.
But here's the thing, it would have to be a garden suite. It's a pretty
Same thing.
Yeah, same thing. It's not too bad. It's a pretty narrow lot because I live in the boroughs of East York.
What do they have, a 30-foot or something like that? 35?
You know what? I think it might actually be a little bit smaller.
Just check the land registry.
Yeah, I would
even
have
a
to check
25-foot, you could do it.
Well, for 650 grand, I wouldn't complain. Like,
So that works out to $481 a square foot, which is in range, right? You're looking at anywhere from $300 to $500, maybe $600 a square foot to build, depending on how nice you want to go. So that's in range. Yeah, that's not bad.
It's actually pretty affordable, and especially for what they got. Like,
have you actually lived have you actually walked into a Laneway house? Any
I haven't. Yeah. I've looked at it online through MLS and everything. I want to view one myself, but I haven't gone to that yet.
You guys know?
Yeah.
Michael House, right?
They look
They're
pretty
awesome,
good.
man.
Yeah.
They're awesome. It's its own separate living space. It's like first of all, it's brand new construction, right? So you do everything through permits and all that. So it's gonna be really done really well, and it's gonna be inspectors and stuff.
Yeah. Also,
be
sorry,
safe.
on a positive note, like that person is also an interior designer. So they made the place look really nice. Like I got to show you guys the pictures.
That's awesome. And like the benefit of that is that if you ever have kids, you know, your parents are right there to help, which would be awesome. You know, you can shrink the size of the kitchen. You just go over there and eat.
Yeah, free
Yeah.
It's
babysitting.
awesome. Free laundry, man.
Yeah.
Like, you know, that's awesome.
I mean, the thing is, this is suitable for people who have parents who are fortunate enough to actually own
Yes.
their land.
Right. Like
and
how many
own the
people
real
can
estate.
actually do that? That would be
Right.
the question.
Yeah, of
Like
course.
it's a very creative way to solve, like it's part of the answer to solving the housing affordability crisis.
on
And I
everything.
think it's very creative, and they're very lucky to be in that situation.
Well, you remember our last podcast that there's no real solutions, no one silver bullet that will just
Right.
like solve everything other than maybe interest rates. But other than that, actually not even that because you need a down payment to begin with, right?
Right.
But yeah, this is just one of many avenues.
Yeah.
And I think that's a great solution. Like
It
for
is.
example, Neil's position, right? Like
Yeah.
your parents own a home.
I would do a garden suite.
Yeah.
And it's been a long time since we've seen an entry level home for families at around the $650,000 mark, like that close to the city with TTC public transit.
I know you can
and
get
everything.
cheaper too. And then you know what the cool thing is? They're actually doing modular homes as well too, like prefab construction. That they come with the walls and it's like a kit. It comes in a skid and they just build it, and it's like super cheap cheaper to do it. And you could probably build it in like 150 grand or so, right? Wow. And yeah, I mean, I like all that innovation's coming in, and some other architects right now are doing like pre-designed plans. So you just kind of pick from, oh, your lot's this, your house is like, it's just a kind of standard, right? It's already pre-designed, and it makes everything just so much faster.
Yeah.
So
They also have the container homes and 3D printing homes, like all these
that
little
stuff.
things.
Well,
All
I don't
these
know if
little
container
things.
homes are great for. Container homes are actually a bad idea, from what I understand, because like if you got to build the insulation anyway, right? And then you're limited to an 8x10 or whatever it is for the container size.
It's 8x10 or 8x20.
Yeah, so you're limited
yeah.
to 8 foot width, in other words,
Yeah.
right? And then like it's just you're not saving much by installing by doing actual studs. It doesn't really make much of a difference.
Right.
That's what I hear. But anyway, yeah. So with prefab and modular construction, it'll bring the cost down eventually. I guess the main downside is that you have to link it with the sale. Like if you ever want to sell yourself, you're kind of linked to your parents, right?
Yeah, that's one
And
of the
umbilical
cons.
cord is still there.
Yeah, like if
Literally,
you-
the umbilical cord is there because all the services tie into the main house, right? And it's not separately metered or anything like that.
Yeah.
So there's some like tough coordination with that. Like you have to, if your kid grows up, you need to get out and the parents are still there. You both basically have to sell, right?
I mean, there's a way to sell it with the parents. Like you can still sell the main house. You just got to change the ownership type to tenants in common, so that it's still one title. It's just you swap
see.
out the owner name
Yeah.
on the other side, which again gets messy. So you can't just sell to anybody because then it gets weird, right? You got to sell to somebody you know.
Yeah, so you just sell it and then you're always going to be in the back over there with some new strangers.
Yeah. Yeah, you're like that ogre that lives in the back or the hunchback. No, but they, I think it's a great solution. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw the article and I'm like, wait, this is actually very doable. Like seeing how they did it. Of course, they had a little bit of lag just because of COVID coming in and they had to go a little bit over budget because of the inflation, basically. But you know what? For what it's worth, to live in the upper beaches and for a person like myself who wants to stay in Toronto, like I don't want to leave, but of course it comes to my head too, where I'm like, why be somewhere where you can't even afford to be at, which is what other immigrants are going through, obviously, as we talked about earlier. So,
And look, as your parents age as well too, they're going to want some support as well.
Yeah.
So it'll be nice to be around them, right?
exactly.
And
That's cool. It's a great solution.
In a similar vein, I'm actually seeing a lot of articles and a lot of short form videos where people who choose to not have kids because it's no longer affordable for them to do so, they're actually picking up and moving into houseboats. And they're foregoing the entire idea of purchasing land. Instead, they're just buying the boat and then paying the docking fee and whatever fees they need for water and electricity.
I saw that too,
Which is pretty interesting because, some of these houses are actually quite nice and they've done them up very well. And apparently they're year round. You don't have to worry about actually staying on it during the winter. And it can be as walkable as, say, a house on the beaches. You just have to dock it nearby.
Yeah, so they have that near the bluffs, right? Scarborough Bluffs around there.
Yeah, it's near the bluffs. I saw that too.
That's really no different. In fact, I almost prefer to have a mobile home. But the problem is mobile home parks are a little further north, right? They're a little kind of out of the country. Like I think the closest, I don't know what the closest one is, maybe Barrie, Innisfil, somewhere around there. So that probably is not a bad idea. It's a great way to keep things affordable.
Yeah, just skip buying the land and just buy the house itself.
That goes
and move
back
around.
to leaving the city, which we don't want to do, right?
Or you can live in your car as well. Do one of those van life, right?
Yeah, speaking of that, like I literally was by Gerard, right by our office here. I was walking towards the pho place, and there was a van life like person. There was a nice renovated van. Saw them working inside. I'm like, oh, you got a microwave, a stove in there. Looking through the windows, I'm like, is this
Like
legal?
a motorhome type of thing?
No, like it's a van. It's just a van that they converted to a home. It looked so sick. Looked so cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things that picked up during COVID, right? Millennials just packing up and just working remotely and embracing the van life and just sort of just going around the country and just traveling at the same time.
But it's also not really allowed, right? Like that can't be your address. Like you have to. They're probably getting all their primary address is probably their parents' home, right?
Yeah, or you can rent a mailbox or whatever, right?
Oh,
Fixed
yeah,
address.
true.
But yeah, of course you're not allowed to squat in somebody's yard or the mall parking lot or anything like that, right? So you're gonna get kicked out and chased by security guards.
But you do actually have to go to a camping site of some sort to be able to park and live in it overnight.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
You know you can do that in your Tesla, by the way.
It wouldn't be a real estate agent podcast without a mention of without a Tesla plug.
But what realtor's not living in their car right now?
That's true too. Yeah. Whether you're sleeping or working. Yeah, anyway, whatever. Okay, so what else are we seeing here in the news?
So that just tied in like how we can, bring prices lower, which we've seen as a trend recently, because since winter started, December hit, and we've seen all-time lows. And you talked earlier about we're not selling enough houses this year, 65,000, right? So there's definitely a lot of deals out there in the market, right?
Yeah. So
is it a good time to buy now or transact in real estate?
It's always a good time to buy. No, it depends on the situation. I can't give like general advice like that. But typically, last year we saw 65,000 homes being sold, where in a market we see 80, 90, maybe 100,000 homes on average. And so it's an all-time low. You said since 20 years?
Since year 2000, yeah.
All right, so 23-year low of homes being transacted. And this is at a time when we've had massive immigration for those past 20 years, right? If we're letting in 1 million people, 1 million plus people per year, right? Like including non-permanent workers and non-permanent people, that's a lot of people that we've grown by. I mean, I remember 20 years ago, it was like, 30 million people? Now we're at 40 million. We just broke the 40 million mark.
Like how many of those immigrants come to Toronto? Like what, half, a third of them? Like
I think it's like a third. I think a third comes to Ontario, and then within that, I forgot how much it was, 150.
I thought it was closer to 350,000 coming to Ontario.
That's Ontario.
And then out of that 350,000, I believe the stat was 175 or 185,000 that actually came to Toronto proper, like the actual city core.
Yeah, either way, it's a lot for sure.
It's a lot.
Just to play devil's advocate here, I get that there's a lot of immigrants and everybody coming into Canada, but like realistically, how many of them are actually buying a problem? How much does that buying a house? How much does that affect the resale market? Because from what I've seen, they're all renting. So like, does it really affect resale?
Well, it boosts up the demand for landlords for sure. If you see a strong rental market, you're gonna want to buy an investment property. The only thing is when you come in here as an immigrant, because of the foreign buyer ban, unless you have your permanent residency as soon as you land, or you're here on a study permit, work permit. Yeah, not study permit. Then you're allowed to buy, but with a work permit, you have to pay 25% tax first, and you get it back once you get your permanent residency. Which is a hefty sum.
Just a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so most people are like that rule is only in place until 2025. It's only a 2-year ban on foreign buyers. So in 25, maybe things will change. But the way it is now, they come here typically renting a place. They don't know what location they're going to be in. They want to kind of just test out the waters a little bit. Yep. So if that boosts up rental demand as a landlord, I'm going to buy something as an investment, right?
You got a steady pool of new tenants coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's how it affects the resale housing market.
Yeah,
it's not that landlords hoard housing. Like I don't know. People say it all the time. It's so funny. It's such a funny concept to me. I still don't get it. But I try to debate them. They don't understand it. I don't know why they don't understand it. It's like no, landlords don't hoard housing. If landlords didn't exist, if investors didn't exist, housing wouldn't be built.
No, wouldn't be maintained. Well,
Wouldn't be built even for that matter.
yeah.
Because banks
there
won't
wouldn't be
lend to you.
demand.
What's that?
Because there wouldn't be demand for those projects, like appetite for investment properties, right?
Well, it's more that no one's going to put their deposits down on buying a place
Right.
if the rental demand wasn't there. And if they don't put their deposits down, banks won't lend to the builders to build because they can't prove the demand.
yeah,
Exactly.
Like banks don't like to lose money. You got to remember that. They
Yeah.
never like to lose money.
yeah,
They'd rather lay off their staff instead of going out there getting more mortgages in a risky time like this.
Right.
That's how crazy it is, right? So if they're not going to lend to you unless you have 70% proven sales, then the project's not going to get built, which means that nothing will get built unless investors were existing.
But that's like for a large majority, that's hitting, you know, the condo market. But outside of the downtown core, primarily Toronto is just a bunch of semi and detached homes.
Okay.
So how was that market affected in 2023?
Well, I just, in 23 specifically, well, I find that as people are moving away from affordability
Yeah.
reasons, right? They move to outside of the GTA,
Yeah.
outside of the core, things like that kind of get a little heated.
yeah.
Right, those markets. In 23, it was kind of different because the interest rates were so hard that the markets actually dropped in the outer suburbs. But eventually,
Quite a
when
few
things
people couldn't
rebound-
qualify either.
Well, yeah,
When it
exactly.
came
Yeah.
down to close.
Exactly.
It's quite
yeah.
crazy because we saw a lot of Simons actually pop up towards the end of the year, around Q4.
Those assignments are crazy, eh?
Yeah.
Like, I feel so bad for some of those sellers.
Yeah, they're taking a haircut on a lot of these
A
properties.
big haircut.
A lot of people are actually losing their deposits and even paying more to get out of it, right?
Yeah.
Because you got to pay the commissions and all that.
Yeah.
And
So
that's why
there's
you see all
deals
these-
there.
yeah. No, there's definitely deals out there to be had. You just got to go look for it. And it's kind of hard to find the exact thing that you want as a deal. Like, if you look at overall, we're still on sale compared to the peak of 2022. Like,
Yeah.
what is it, 15% down, maybe even close to 20% down in some areas?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think it's a deal. And if you're looking at it in the long run, I may bounce back. It probably will bounce back. I don't know.
So the interesting thing about the deal though is that if we're looking at it from like an average sale dollar volume, we're actually doing all right. Like sale prices have actually maintained a standard level of stickiness throughout 2023. Like it hasn't deviated much. If anything, it's actually gone up towards the end of 2023, which means that even though you have fewer transactions happening, it's not like there are deals for those sellers who absolutely have to sell. Like we've had this experience in Canary District where somebody absolutely had to sell a townhouse and went for way less than what we expected it to. Like, yeah, sure, there are those deals, but for the most part, we're still seeing a lot of sellers actually hold on to whatever they have until the right buyer comes along.
Or wait for a different market, right?
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
you could
if
see.
they can.
Well, and that's why the prices never moved that much.
Right.
Even though our inventory is so much like lower.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because, you can find a deal, but for the most part, the market is still very, very, I guess the lack of better words, buoyant.
Yeah, 'cause there's a lot of people waiting, right?
Yeah.
Rates to drop and
Yeah, and
the
also
right price to come.
for most people though, it's sure it's price, but a lot of times it's not even just about price. It's also like job security. You know what I mean? Like if we're gonna hit recessionary times, which seems like it's coming with this whole, I don't know if you guys heard or not, this whole repo market thing. I don't even know what that means, but the Canadian banks started, the Bank of Canada just started injected like $30 or $40 billion of liquidity, short-term liquidity into the market because something's messed up. That's what it is, and it hasn't been announced yet, but it's gonna come soon.
Yeah.
Wow.
So something's failing, like a bank is going to fail or something's going to fail.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think Canadian banks will fail, but something will happen, right?
They're
So
expecting something to fail.
You looking at my
something
stocks.
just, no, like it happened. That's why they did it. Right.
Wasn't the first bank that did it like TD?
No, but this is the Bank of Canada stepping in now.
Oh, the Bank of
because all
Canada's
the
actually
liquidity is
stepping in
dried
now.
up.
Okay. Because I thought TD actually took a precautionary measure a couple of weeks ago, just in case.
For what, their loan loss provisions, or what are you talking about?
Yeah, I think it was loan loss provisions.
Yeah, this is something else.
They're
This-
long-term loan loss provisions.
This is something else. This is when the banks lend money to each other, and there's not enough money to be lent out anymore.
Oh.
So the bank had to Big Daddy had to step in and inject money into the system.
Ooh.
So something's going on here, but no one really knows what's happening. So we'll see what unfolds. So I think there's going to be some bad times out there. So yes, there could be good deals, but the reason why there's not transactions happening is because nobody has the faith that they
Yeah,
can
that's what
buy
I've
even.
seen.
Even if you get a great deal, 10, 15% off, whatever it is, right? 20% off.
Right.
What if you don't have a good job to be able to support that?
Right.
You could be screwed, right? And the cost of exiting or buying a bad deal is really difficult to get out of it because of the closing costs, transaction costs, and
Yeah, yeah.
even the lost equity. So it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard out there.
So is this the bottom? Like what even is the bottom that people are asking for?
Can we go
what is
lower?
that? Like what is this? Like I thought the bubble has been popped, you know? Like when is it? When are we at the bottom?
Now you're hitting controversial topic where nobody really has the answer to.
Yeah.
Like it depends. You're right. Like what is the bottom? Because when do you look at the time frame, right? If
Yeah.
you're looking at 2022 or you're looking back even from like further.
Yeah, like are we waiting for 2007 prices to come back, or like is that what people are waiting for?
It feels like they're waiting for everything to crash and burn around them, and then they're there to pick up the pieces.
That would be the time for them to buy. Yeah.
Yeah, you know, like the people debating this are the ones just really sitting on the sidelines with no intention to actually buy anything.
Right.
You
Keyboard
know,
warriors.
Yeah, if you're in a real situation where you need to buy something because you have a growing family, shrinking family, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
60s, right?
Yeah.
Then it doesn't matter where the market's at.
No.
As long as you can get in and it's affordable, it's within your
In the
budget.
long term, it won't
Just
matter.
need a
Makes
roof
sense.
over my head. Over
Yeah,
my
or
kid's
your-
head.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
Kids
that's it.
or death, divorce, debt,
Yeah.
diapers, diamonds, distance,
Yeah.
any of those.
Just have a reason to be in real estate or to not be in real estate. And
Yeah.
I'm not worried about the short term, like the short term news. As long as I'm able to cover my debt, as long as I'm able to service it, I'm happy. I'm just going to sit here and wait.
Interesting enough, I had a conversation the other night at dinner with somebody, with a group of people, and we're talking about how renters are winning in this market for the past 2 years. They've been winning because
Yeah.
housing is so freaking expensive right now. It's like the mortgage costs are so crazy. And now Olivia Chow wants to raise taxes by 10.5% to 14%, depending on which article you read, to pay for this new Dundas Street renaming. It's so crazy out there.
They couldn't think of a better name.
Yeah, couldn't think of a better. Nice. Yeah. Anyway, so the cost of home ownership has just been skyrocketing,
Yeah.
and the tenants that have places that landlords bought a long time ago with a lot of equity in it, maybe no mortgage at all, so they don't really care what the rental rate is. They're not pressured. They don't need that income to support their costs. They just need it. They're using this income or whatever they're using it. Those are the best people. Those are the ones that are winning.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, also,
That's me. That's me. Locked it in.
well, also,
Thanks,
also in a
landlord.
situation like that, they tend to also be in properties that are rent control too. So
Yeah.
that's even better.
Yeah.
Like there's just absolutely it's less likely that anything's going to happen to those tenants.
You just got to work within the game, guys. Like those were the rules that were given to me. I'm just playing with the rules.
You know, I kind of wish that the like I like not having rent controls, but I wish there was some sort of framework where it's like in between. You know what I mean? Because like it's hard and it's scary going into a place where you don't know where the landlord is going to be. There's no rent controls in place. They could jack it up $100 a month or whatever nominal amount, or they could jack it up like 3 times just to get you out.
Right.
Which is like super, like, why would they do that? Because, the cost of getting a new tenant is expensive and all that. But the cost of moving also sucks too, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's not just monetary, but the time involved in that kind of sucks.
there has to be a happy medium there.
There should be a medium.
because I agree too. Like it is the reason I picked the building I'm at right now. It's scary. Like I don't want to go through that experience again.
Again, exactly.
Where,
Happened
where
before.
it's like I think I'm good, and then all of a sudden I'm like, why would you increase what 50%?
Yeah, some landlords are just unreasonable. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Especially for those people who got COVID prices, like really cheap. Now they're like paying the price.
Do you remember that time? Like back then, I remember that the landlords were begging for people to come in.
It was a
Like, just
fire
drop-
sale.
Yeah.
I was looking at MLS every day, like, oh, I can move here, I can go there.
Like 1,200,
But even
1,500.
even some landlords were representing. They're like, "Oh man, I just got to get bleeding. I just got to get something right."
Yeah.
And then now they're begging for the tenant, and then all of a sudden, the tenant wrote it out with them. 2 years later, now they're saying, "Oh no, I want them out. They're paying too low."
Yeah.
Like, come on,
Yeah.
that's not right. These are people's homes.
Yeah. Like, let them be.
Let them
Let
enjoy.
them live there for a while. You signed this contract. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let it balance it out over time.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the biggest contention right now of housing I see from, tenants versus landlords. It's just like tenants don't want landlords to treat it as financial like instrument, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
Right? If you want to invest in that, go invest in the stock market.
Yeah.
But as landlords, we're like, yo, this is how you make money. Really, it's truly how you make money. The leverage and all that.
Yeah.
Although with your previous conversation about the banks, I don't know if I'm in that stock market anymore.
Well,
In the crypto market, right?
No, I don't know if I want to be in I have stocks with banks. Like I'm scared now with that. With
Canadian
owning
banks?
some TD and
Canada
stuff.
banks won't ever fail. Come on. That'll be fine.
Oh, so what's a positive outlook for 2024? What do we think is going to happen? What are economists saying? What's happening in the year 2024? What can we expect?
There's just a bank today that announced tomorrow, like internally, that their rates are going to drop. Their fixed rates are going to drop by about 15 basis points, 10 to 15 basis points, depending on what you're looking for. So a 5-year fixed is going down to just under 6%. By 0.15%, if anybody knows what a basis point is.
It helps.
Yeah, so every I mean, I got to do the numbers, but it does help. Certainly, we'll reduce your payment by like a couple of $100, maybe $100 or something like that, whatever it is, which does make a difference. So if we're seeing, it's not so much the rate decrease, it's more the trajectory.
Yeah, it's the sign.
The fact that we're decreasing as opposed to increasing.
Yeah.
And with the U.S. news saying that they're pretty much done their rate hikes as well too, hopefully, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah, if that happens, then that's a good sign for us as well too. Yeah. And you know what? I don't know if you guys listened or not, but I actually listened to the Bank of Canada speech at the end of the year speech.
No.
And at the very end of it, there's a Q&A session where they ask something about decoupling the U.S. economy from the Canadian economy, right? Because if that happens, the U.S. exchange rate, the Canadian to U.S. exchange rate is going to our Canadian dollar is going to tank.
Yeah.
If the U.S. economy is super strong, all the money's going to flow over there, not to here. Yeah. I mean, we're going to hit like 60 cents per dollar or whatever it is, or even lower, right?
Right.
So Tiff Macklem, the governor, basically said that we're allowed to run our own fiscal policy independently of what the U.S. is doing. So we have two economies, and there's actually clapping. If you actually rewind it and listen to the December speech, that's actually what happened in the Q&A. Okay. So that's good news because people are clapping because they're saying he's not going to be bullied by what the U.S. is doing to control our own economy, which is good news.
Yeah.
Right? Because if our economy is struggling, which it probably will be, rates aren't the only thing that controls our housing market, I guess you could say. I mean, yes, it is the majority of it, but the problem is even if rates are low, but you don't have a job, what are you going to do? You can't get a mortgage.
Well, the good thing is unemployment's actually lower at the end of the year last year. It's starting to trend downwards. Like it was down to 6.6% after a high of 6.8, 6.9?
Sure.
7?
Yeah. Sure, but let's see what the outlook is, though. That's the only issue.
Yeah.
The only way they're going to drop the rates is if the economy's bad, and if the economy's bad, it could mean bad for you.
Yeah.
It could be bad for us, for everybody.
Right? It could be. But I think that this won't last forever. I think our economy, it's just rough times right now, and we had good times before, and we'll go back to those good times.
Yeah.
The main point of the government's role is to make sure the economy just rolls along smoothly, and everybody's having a good time. We're producing good things. Everyone's making money. It's good times.
Yeah.
So eventually we'll get there, and that's the good news, hopefully.
Yep.
I don't know how else to articulate that.
I mean, the economy is cyclical, basically. Whenever we go up, we have to go back down. Like there's always peaks and there's always lows as far as it goes. As long as we continue to grow along that trajectory with our GDP, we're fine. Like right now, it's just a low, and it's expected. Because before, didn't they say that every economic cycle should last about 7 years, where it climbs and then comes down?
Yeah.
But then they said that actually based on, I can't remember which economic theory it was, but because of where we are in our stage of capitalism, that period of time is actually extended to about 20, 25 years between highs and lows.
Really?
Apparently.
Makes sense, though.
Yeah. So, I mean, yes, it's only been a year or two of really low lows.
Yeah.
But there are brighter days ahead. We just have to get to it.
Yeah, and hopefully it gets done before the mortgage renewal cliff happens, right?
Which they said should be happening in 2024, to avoid the mortgage cliff.
Yeah, that's right, because mortgage cliff comes in 25. Because
25.
I think over 40% or 60%, one or two, 40% of people have had their mortgages renew already.
Yeah.
Which means there's a huge wave, billions of dollars of mortgages that haven't been renewed yet.
Yeah.
And when that hits, you're used to, those people are stuck in variable payment. People have already felt the pain.
Yeah.
But if you're on a fixed rate and you've been paying 2%, well, get ready for that payment shock. It's coming, right?
Yeah.
That 6% hurts. That's like basically 50% more payments per month.
Yeah.
And you're paying very little principal down. Yeah. So,
and that's something we could talk about on the next podcast.
I mean, it's something that it's been going on for years now, right? With everybody trying to be an economist now. But it's been going on for years because that's just the way it is by design. That's what the government wanted. That's what the Bank of Canada wanted, for us to spend more on housing so that we don't spend on the economy, which then cools it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Which unfortunate byproduct of that is people losing their jobs.
Yeah.
So you know, they talked about a hard landing versus a soft landing. Hard landing mean that the whole economy is crap and everybody's, you know, depressed and revolts happen and everything like that. Or a soft landing where just enough, where it just brings it back down a little bit to target inflation, 2 to 3%, and then back up.
Yeah.
Back up we go slowly.
Yeah. It hasn't been quite that soft. There's been
not in our industry. Our industry's been hit hard, absolutely, for sure. And all the spin-off businesses from that, like mortgage brokers and lawyers and all that. I know everyone's kind of, it's hurting a little bit for sure.
Yeah.
But I think in time, things will bounce back, and let's see.
Yeah.
Let's see where it goes. Real estate lawyers, I mean. Not regular lawyers like yours. Anyway.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Head it up. Thanks for sticking out to the very end. I hope you got some value out of this. Do me a favor, please press like and subscribe. But more than anything, leave me some feedback so we know what to produce for you going forward. Thanks again.